The emergency lights cast red shadows across the control room of the research ship Bright Wing. Zaraka pressed her scaled hands against the cold metal console and watched the numbers on her screen drop lower and lower. Life support would last 6 more weeks. Maybe 7 if they cut power to everything except the most basic systems. Any word from the Confederation? She asked without looking up. She already knew the answer, but hope was hard to kill completely. Pip looked up from his communication station. The young Kalari's bright yellow eyes had lost their usual spark days ago. Nothing new. Command says our location makes rescue impossible. Too far from any base. Too expensive to send a ship just for 12 people. Zaraka's throat made a bitter, clicking sound. Just for 12 people. As if their lives meant nothing because they were so far from home. They had volunteered for this mission to study the strange energy readings in the void between star systems. Now that void would become their grave. Dr. Then shuffled over from his engineering station. The old Vorthak's gray skin looked even, paler than usual under the red lights. His breathing was getting worse each day. The air recycling system was not built for someone with his lung problems. The engines are completely dead, Dr. Then said in his raspy voice. The quantum drive burned out when we hit that energy storm. I have been an engineer for 60 years and I cannot fix this. We would need a full shipyard, and parts we do not have. Zaraka nodded slowly. She was the mission leader, which meant these people were her responsibility. 12 scientists from 4 different species, all trapped because she had insisted they investigate those energy readings. The readings that turned out to be some kind of natural space storm that fried their engines and left them drifting. What? About the Vorthak Empire? Asked Jenny, one of the human-like Altarians. Your people have the fastest ships in this sector. Dr. Then shook his ancient head. I sent word to my cousin who serves in their fleet. The nearest Imperial ship is 8 months away. We have 6 weeks of air left. The control room fell quiet except for the steady hum of the life support systems. Everyone was doing the math in their heads. 8 months versus 6 weeks. It did not add up to rescue. Zaraka looked around at her team. 3 Kalari including herself and Pip. 2 Vorthak including Dr. Then. 4 Altarians who looked almost human but had silver blood and could see in the dark. 2 Nexari who communicated, mostly through color changes in their skin. And 1 actual human named Marcus who had joined them as a cultural observer. 12 different people from different worlds. All united by their love of science and discovery. All about to die in the empty space between the stars. The Nexari fleet? Zaraka asked, though she already knew this answer too. Vex, one of the Nexari, shifted his skin to deep purple, the color for negative emotions. Our ships are built for speed, not long-range rescue. We cannot reach this far into the void. The Altarian Republic? Our closest ship is 10 months out, said Jenny quietly. I am sorry. Marcus, the human, had been quiet since they first realized how bad their situation was. He sat at the back of the control room staring at his hands. Humans were new to this part of space. Nobody expected them to have ships that could help. We could try a general distress call, Pip suggested. His voice still held a tiny bit of hope. Broadcast on all frequencies. Maybe someone we have not thought of will hear us. Dr. Then coughed, a wet sound that worried everyone. The odds are very small. Most species will not risk their ships and crews for strangers. It is not logical. But we have to try, Zaraka said firmly. We are scientists. We know that even small odds are still odds. Pip, start broadcasting on all known frequencies. Emergency distress call. Include our exact location and situation. Pip's hands moved quickly over his controls. The communication array was still working at least. Message ready. Should I include information about our research? Yes. If someone comes, they should know why we were out here. Maybe our data will be worth something to them. The message began broadcasting into the darkness of space, a cry for help sent in dozens of different languages and communication methods. It would travel at light speed to any ship or station within range, but space was vast and empty. The chances of anyone being close enough to help were tiny. Days passed. The air got a little thinner each day. Dr. Then's coughing got worse. The Nexari started showing stress colors more often. Even Marcus, who usually stayed positive, became quiet and withdrawn. Still no response to our distress call, Pip reported each morning. His yellow eyes had lost more of their brightness. On the 10th day after the broadcast started, something strange happened. The long-range sensors picked up a signal, not a response to their call, something else entirely. A ship signature, but unlike anything in their databases. What kind of ship is that? Sarika asked, staring at the readings. Marcus looked up for the first time in days. I think that might be a human ship. But that is impossible. No human ship could be out this far. Human ships are small and weak, said one of the Altarians. Everyone knows this. They barely have faster-than-light travel. But the signature was getting stronger. Whatever it was big, much bigger than any human ship anyone had heard of, and it was moving fast, very fast. Could it be responding to our distress call? Pip asked. From that distance? Dr. Then shook his head. They would have to travel nearly 80 light-years to reach us. No species attempts rescues at such distances. The cost in fuel and time is too great. Sarika stared at the sensor readings. The signature was definitely coming toward them, but that seemed impossible. Who would travel so far to help 12 strangers? And why was a human ship so far from human space? Keep monitoring, she ordered. But do not get your hopes up. It might just be passing through the area. But deep inside, something stirred that she had not felt in weeks. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Hope. Real hope. Not just the desperate kind that comes from having no other choice. The unknown ship kept coming. Its course was aimed directly at their position. Either it was the biggest coincidence in galactic history, or someone out there had heard their call for help and was actually coming. The question was, who were they, and why were they willing to risk everything for a bunch of stranded scientists they had never met? In the red-lit control room of the Bright Wing, 12 people from 4 different worlds waited to find out if the universe still had room for miracles. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and stared at the message display. The distress call had been playing for 3 days now, ever since they picked it up on their long-range sensors. 12 people stranded in the void, running out of air, abandoned by their own governments because rescue was too expensive. Distance to the distress signal? She asked her navigation officer. 79.4 light-years, Captain. At maximum speed, we could reach them. In 18 days. Elena rubbed her forehead. 18 days to get there. The message said they had 6 weeks of life support when they sent it, which was 10 days ago. That would leave them with barely 2 weeks of air remaining when the Defiant arrived. If they were lucky. Commander Morrison, what do you think? She asked her first officer. James Morrison was a big man who everyone called Tank. He had been a Marine before joining the Navy, and he never forgot that Marines left no one behind. Captain, those people are going to die if we don't help them. The nearest Kalari ship is how far away? 8 months, according to the message. The Vorthak Empire says the same. Everyone else is even further out. Elena walked to the main display and looked at the star map. The Defiant was on a patrol mission along the edge of human space, testing their new experimental drive systems. They were the only ship within range of the stranded scientists, the only chance those people had. Lieutenant Torres, send a message to Fleet Command. Request permission to divert from patrol to assist in rescue operation. The communications officer's hands moved over her controls. Message sent, Captain. Response time will be about 4 hours due to our distance from Earth. 4 hours. Elena hoped the people on that research ship could wait that long for hope. But when the response came back, it was not what she wanted to hear. Captain, Lieutenant, Torres said quietly. Fleet Admiral Chen sends his regrets, but rescue is denied. Quote, mission parameters do not justify risking a capital ship and 400 crew members for 12 non-human civilians at extreme range. Continue patrol as ordered, end quote. The bridge fell silent. Elena could feel the eyes of her crew on her. These were good people, all of them. They had signed up to explore space and protect those who could not protect themselves. Now their own command was telling them to let 12 people die because they were not human, and saving them would cost too much. Captain? Tank asked quietly. Orders? Elena looked at the distress signal again. 12 scientists. People who had risked their lives to push the boundaries of knowledge. They were somebody's children, somebody's friends. They had families, waiting for them to come home. She thought about her grandmother who had served in the old Earth navies before humanity reached the stars. Her grandmother always said that the most important rule of the sea was simple. You never abandon people in distress. Never. Not because it was profitable or easy or politically smart. You did it because it was right. Lieutenant Torres sent another message to Fleet Command. Yes, Captain. Tell them that I am invoking Article 7 of the Naval Code. Emergency rescue of civilians in immediate danger supersedes mission parameters when no other assistance is available. Tank raised his eyebrows. Article 7 was rarely used. It basically let a captain disobey orders if lives were at stake. But it also meant the captain would face serious consequences when they got home. Captain, said Dr. Sarah Chen from her position at the science station, I should point out that our experimental drive systems are not rated for the kind of speed we would need to maintain. We would be pushing them far beyond safe limits. How? Far beyond safe limits? There is a 30% chance of critical system failure. If the drive burns out halfway there, we would be stranded too. Elena nodded. 30% chance of killing her own crew to save 12 strangers. Any reasonable person would call those bad odds. But her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. You never abandon people in distress. All hands, this is the captain, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. We have received a distress call from 12 civilians whose ship is disabled in deep space. Fleet Command has denied permission for rescue due to range and risk factors. I am choosing to divert our mission under Article 7 of the Naval Code. She paused, knowing that her next words would change everything. I want every member of this crew to understand what this means. We will be pushing our experimental drive systems beyond safe limits. There is significant risk to our own ship and crew. When we return, I will face a court-martial for disobeying direct orders. Anyone who objects to this mission can submit their concerns in writing and they will be noted in the official record. Elena waited. The ship's communication system carried only the hum of the engines. Then Tank's voice came over the comm from his station. No objections here, Captain. When do we leave? Engineering reports ready for maximum burn, came another voice. Medical bay prepared for possible casualties in alien physiology, added Dr. Chen. One by one, every department reported in. No objections, no complaints, just 400 people ready to risk their lives for 12 strangers they had never met. Navigation, plot a course for the distress signal, maximum speed. Course plotted, Captain. Engineering, prepare for sustained overburn of the drive systems. Drive systems ready, Captain. We'll push these engines harder than they've ever been pushed. All stations, prepare for emergency acceleration. We have 12 people counting on us and we are not going to let them down. The Defiant turned toward the coordinates in the distress signal and began to accelerate. The experimental drive systems roared to life, pushing the massive ship faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. In the engineering section, technicians watched nervous readings as the drives ran far beyond their tested limits. On the bridge, Elena watched the stars streak past and did the math in her head. 18 days to get there, maybe 16 if they pushed even harder and got lucky. She just hoped those 12 scientists could hold on that long. Behind them, an automated message beacon launched toward Earth. In a few days, Fleet Command would know that the UES Defiant had gone rogue. There would be angry meetings and stern lectures about following orders. Elena's career was probably over. But somewhere ahead of them in the darkness, 12 people were counting on them. And that was all that mattered. Captain, Tank said quietly, you know they're going to crucify you when we get back. Elena smiled. Let them try. My grandmother always said that you can sleep well at night when you know you did the right thing. The Defiant raced through space toward 12 people who had no idea that help was coming. The warning alarms on the Bright Wing had been silent for hours. There was no point in them anymore. Everyone knew the ship was dying. The air recycling system wheezed and struggled. The temperature had dropped to barely above freezing to save power. Dr. Then spent most of his time in the medical bay, his breathing getting worse each day. Zarikov floated in the zero gravity of the control room, trying to stay warm. They had shut down artificial gravity 3 days ago to save energy. Everything felt like a dream now. A cold, quiet dream that was slowly fading to black. Contact! Pip's voice cracked with excitement. I have a ship on sensors. Zarikov pushed off a wall and glided over to the sensor station. Her scaled hands shook as she gripped the console. Show me. The display lit up with the image of something impossible. A ship. A massive ship. Bigger than anything she had ever seen. It was sleek and powerful, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. And it was heading straight for them. That cannot be real, whispered Jenny the Altarian. No ship that size should be able to travel this far from any base. Marcus the human was staring at the display with wide eyes. Those markings. That's a human ship. But how? Human ships are supposed to be small exploration vessels. Maybe your people have been keeping secrets, Zaraka said. She tried to sound calm, but her heart was beating so fast she could feel it in her throat. The massive ship was slowing down as it approached. Whoever they were, they knew exactly where the Bright Wing was located. This was not an accidental encounter. Incoming transmission, Pip announced. His voice was shaking with excitement and fear. Put it through. A woman's voice filled the control room, speaking in clear, simple words. Research vessel Bright Wing, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Defiant. We received your distress call. Are you still in need of assistance? The control room erupted in noise. The Nexari flashed bright colors of joy and relief. The Altarians cheered. Even Dr. Then's wheezing voice could be heard from the medical bay asking what was happening. Zaraka grabbed the communication controls with trembling hands. UES Defiant, this is Zaraka, commander of the Bright Wing. Yes, we desperately need assistance. Our engines are destroyed and life support is failing. How did you get here so fast? We pushed our drives pretty hard, Bright Wing. What is your current life support status? 4 days of air remaining. Maybe 5 if we cut life support to minimum. There was a pause, then. Understood. We are moving to docking position. Please prepare for emergency evacuation procedures. Zaraka stared at Pip in amazement. Emergency evacuation procedures. Someone was actually going to get them off this dead ship. Captain Rodriguez, Zaraka said into the communicator. We have 12 people aboard. 4 different species with different atmospheric requirements. Our ship has been badly damaged. Copy that, Bright Wing. Our medical officer is Dr. Sarah Chen. She is preparing for multiple species care. We will get everyone off safely. An hour later, Zaraka got her first look at the human ship through the Bright Wing's small windows. The UES Defiant was enormous. It was at least 10 times larger than their research vessel, with massive engines and thick armor plating. This was not an exploration ship. This was a warship. How do humans have ships like that? Marcus asked in wonder. My government told us that humans were still using basic technology. Maybe your government was wrong, Zaraka replied. The docking process was not going well. The Bright Wing's hull was cracked and twisted from their encounter with the energy storm. The normal docking ports would not line up properly with the human ship. Bright Wing, we have a problem with docking, came Captain Rodriguez's voice. Your hull damage is worse than we thought. We cannot get a proper seal for normal transfer. Zaraka's heart sank. They had come so close. However, the captain continued, we are sending over EVA teams with emergency life support gear. We will extract your people manually if necessary. EVA teams? Extravehicular activity. Our people will come outside in spacesuits and bring you across to our ship one at a time. Zaraka had never heard of such a thing. Spacesuits were used for short repairs, not for rescuing people across open space. It sounded incredibly dangerous. Captain, that sounds very risky for your people. Bright Wing, we did not travel 80 light years to turn around now. We are getting everyone off that ship. An hour later, Zaraka watched through the windows as figures in bulky spacesuits moved between the two ships. They had attached guide cables and were setting up some kind of transfer system. One of the humans, a big man whose nameplate read Morrison, was working directly on the Bright Wing's damaged hull, trying to cut through twisted metal. Dr. Chen's voice came over the radio. Bright Wing, we need to know about any special medical needs. The Vorthak individual appears to be in respiratory distress. Dr. Then has lung damage from breathing our recycled air for too long, Zaraka explained. He may not survive much longer. We are coming for him first. Our medical bay is prepared for multiple species physiology. The first person to transfer was Dr. Then. The old Vorthak was wrapped in an emergency life support bubble and carefully moved across the gap between ships. Zaraka watched him disappear into the human vessel and felt a mixture of hope and fear. 1. By 1, the crew of the Bright Wing was transferred to the UES Defiant. The process took 6 hours. Zaraka was the last to leave, as was proper for a ship's commander. When she finally floated through the airlock into the human ship, she was amazed. The corridors were wide and well lit. The air was clean and warm. After weeks in the dying Bright Wing, it felt like paradise. Captain Rodriguez was waiting to greet her. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She did not look like the commander of a massive warship. Welcome aboard the Defiant, Captain Rodriguez said. Your people are all safe. Dr. Then is in our medical bay receiving treatment. Thank you, Zaraka said. The words seemed too small for what she felt. I do not understand why you came for us. Your government must have spent enormous resources on this rescue. Captain Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Actually, my government ordered me not to come. They said it was too far and too dangerous to risk a ship and crew for 12 non-humans. Zaraka stared at her. Then why are you here? Because it was the right thing to do, the captain said simply. Where I come from, we have an old saying, you never abandon people in distress, never. But you disobeyed your own government? Yes. And when we get back, I will probably face punishment for it. But your people are alive, and that is what matters. Zaraka felt something she had never experienced before. This human had risked her career, her ship and her crew, to save 12 strangers from different species. Not for profit or politics or strategic advantage, just because it was right. I do not understand humans, Zaraka said quietly. Captain Rodriguez smiled. Most of the galaxy doesn't, but that's okay. Come on, let me show you to quarters where you can rest. You have been through a lot. As they walked through the corridors of the great human warship, Zaraka wondered what kind of people would risk everything for strangers they had never met, and what it meant that such people existed in the galaxy. Dr. Then died quietly in the medical bay of the UES Defiant 3 days after the rescue. His old lungs had been too damaged by the weeks of bad air on the dying research ship, but he did not die alone and afraid in the cold darkness of space. He died warm and comfortable, surrounded by people who cared about him even though they had just met him. Zaraka stood beside his bed as Dr. Sarah Chen closed his eyes for the last time. The human doctor had worked for days trying to save him, learning Vorthak physiology from medical databases and doing everything possible to help. I am sorry, Dr. Chen said softly. If we had gotten there even a day earlier. You gave him 3 more days than he would have had, Zaraka replied. 3 days where he knew he was safe. That is a gift. Dr. Then's last words had been about the humans. He could not understand why they had come so far to help strangers. In his 70 years of life, he had never seen such a thing. His own government had written off the research mission as too expensive to save. But these humans had risked their lives and their careers for people they did not even know. The funeral was held in the Defiant's main hangar bay. Captain Rodriguez spoke words about Dr. Then's long life and his contributions to science. Then, they launched his body toward the nearest star. As was Vorthak custom, the humans had asked Zaraka about proper burial traditions for each species on the research team, just in case. They wanted to do things correctly, with respect. After the funeral, Captain Rodriguez called Zaraka to her office. The captain looked tired. The experimental drive systems had been pushed so hard during the rescue that they were barely holding together. The Defiant was moving slowly now, trying not to stress the damaged engines further. We have a problem, Captain Rodriguez said. Our drives are in worse shape than we thought. We are going to be stuck out here for at least 2 weeks while my engineers try to repair them. Zaraka nodded. What can we do to help? Actually, that is what I wanted to talk to you about. Your research data from the Bright Wing. It might be useful for our repairs. Dr. Chen says your team was studying quantum energy fluctuations. That could help us understand what went wrong with our drive systems. Of course, we will share everything we have. There is something else, Captain Rodriguez said. Her voice sounded concerned. We picked up a signal this morning. A Kalari patrol ship is heading this way. They will be here in about a week. Zaraka felt a chill. What do they want? According to their message, they want to recover the research data from your mission. They are claiming that since the Bright Wing was a Kalari ship, all research belongs to the Kalari Confederation. But that research was conducted by a mixed species team. Dr. Then did most of the quantum calculations. The Nexari provided the energy detection equipment. It belongs to all of us. Captain Rodriguez leaned back in her chair. The Kalari Patrol Commander says that my government has no right to interfere in Kalari affairs. He is demanding that I turn over all research data and surrender your team to Kalari custody. And if you refuse, then they will consider it an act of theft by the human government. Zaraka stared at the captain. The woman who had already risked her career to save them was now being asked to risk an interstellar incident. The smart thing to do would be to give the Kalari what they wanted and avoid a diplomatic crisis. What will you do? Zaraka asked. Captain Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. The same thing I did when Fleet Command ordered me not to rescue you. What I think is right. Captain, you could start a war between our species. Maybe. Or maybe it is time someone showed the galaxy that some things are more important than politics and profit. 2 days later, the combined crews were working together to repair both ships. Humans worked alongside Kalari, Nixari, and Altarians, sharing knowledge and technology. Pip had become fascinated with human communication systems. The Nixari were teaching human engineers about advanced energy detection. Even Marcus was learning things about his own species that surprised him. Your people are very strange, Zaraka told Captain Rodriguez as they watched a human mechanic learning Kalari engineering techniques. How so? Most species stick to their own kind. They cooperate when there is profit involved, but they do not become friends. Your crew treats us like family. Captain Rodriguez nodded. Humans have a saying. We are all traveling through space together on the same small planets. That makes us neighbors, whether we like it or not. The research data had revealed something important. The energy storm that destroyed the Bright Wing's engines was part of a larger phenomenon. These storms were appearing all over the galaxy, threatening ships and space stations. But the data also showed a pattern. The storms could be predicted, and possibly prevented. This information could save thousands of lives, Dr. Chen explained to the combined crews, but only if it gets to every species in the galaxy, not just the Kalari. The Confederation will never share this freely, Zaraka said. They will sell it to the highest bidder or keep it secret to gain advantage over other species. Then we need to make sure it does not stay secret, Captain Rodriguez replied. When the Kalari patrol ship arrived, Captain Rodriguez was ready for them. The Defiance repairs were almost complete, and the human crew had made copies of all the buyer research data. Human vessel, this is Commander Velka of the Kalari ship Swift Strike, came the transmission. You are ordered to surrender the stolen research data and the fugitive scientists immediately. Commander Velka, this is Captain Rodriguez. The research data was freely given by the scientists who conducted the work. No one here is a fugitive. The research was conducted on a Kalari ship using Kalari resources. It belongs to the Confederation. The research was conducted by scientists from 4 different species using equipment from multiple governments. It belongs to the galaxy. There was a long pause. Then, Captain Rodriguez, you are interfering in Kalari internal affairs. Surrender the data or face the consequences. Captain Rodriguez looked around her bridge. Tank Morrison stood ready at the weapons console. Her crew was prepared for whatever came next. The rescued scientists were watching from the sides of the bridge, fear and hope mixed in their eyes. Commander Velka, I am transmitting the research data to you now. Zaraka gasped. After everything, was the captain going to give in? However, Captain Rodriguez continued, I am also transmitting copies to every species database I can reach. The Vorthak Empire, the Altarian Republic, the Nexari Collective, and a dozen others. This information is too important to be kept secret. You cannot do this. I just did. This data will save lives across the galaxy. No one species has the right to hoard it for profit. The Kalari ship powered up its weapons. The Swift Strike was smaller than the Defiant, but it was fast and well armed. This could turn into a battle that neither side wanted. Captain, Tank said quietly, they are targeting our engines. Hold position. Do not power weapons unless they fire first. The 2 ships faced each other in the darkness of space. On one side, a human warship that had traveled farther than any human ship before. On the other, a Kalari patrol vessel trying to enforce their government's claim on valuable research. But then something unexpected happened. Other ships began to appear on the sensors. First 1, then 3, then half a dozen. Vorthak ships, Altarian vessels, even a Nexari exploration craft. Word of the rescue had spread. The galaxy was watching. This is Admiral Keth Ra of the Vorthak Empire, came a new transmission. Any attack on the human vessel will be considered an act of aggression against researchers under our protection. The Altarian Republic stands with our human allies, added another voice. Commander Velka found himself facing not just one human ship, but a small fleet representing multiple species. All of them united by the story of humans who had risked everything to save 12 strangers. This is not over, the Kalari commander transmitted. Then the Swift Strike turned and jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the system. Captain Rodriguez slumped in her command chair. The crisis was over. But she knew there would be consequences. The human government would not be happy about this diplomatic incident. "Captain," Saraka said, "you just made enemies of the most powerful species in the sector." "Maybe," Rodriguez replied, "but we also made some new friends, and that research data is now in the hands of people who will use it to save lives instead of make profits." As the mixed fleet of ships began to disperse, Zaraka realized something had changed in the galaxy. For the first time, species were working together not because they had to, but because it was right. And it had all started with 12 people stranded in the dark and a human captain who refused to leave them behind. 3 months later, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in a courtroom on Earth, facing the most important military trial in human history. The charges were serious: disobeying direct orders, risking a capital ship, causing a diplomatic incident, and endangering 400 crew members. Any one of these charges could end her career and send her to prison. The courtroom was packed with reporters, military officials, and politicians. But in the front row sat 11 beings from different worlds. The survivors of the Bright Wing had traveled across the galaxy to testify on her behalf. Fleet Admiral Chen, the same man who had denied permission for the rescue, read the charges aloud. His voice was cold and formal. When he finished, he looked directly at Elena. "Captain Rodriguez, how do you plead to these charges?" Elena stood straight and proud in her dress uniform. "Guilty on all charges, Admiral. I disobeyed orders, risked my ship, and endangered my crew. And I would do it again." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Most defendants tried to make excuses or deny responsibility. Elena was admitting to everything. "You understand that these actions could result in dismissal from the service and imprisonment?" "I understand, sir." The prosecutor, a sharp-faced man named Colonel Parks, stood to present his case. He talked about military discipline and the chain of command. He showed holographic displays of fuel costs and resource allocation. He argued that Elena's actions had set a dangerous precedent that could destroy military order. Captain Rodriguez put her own feelings above the good of humanity. Colonel Parks concluded, "She risked a $1 billion warship and 400 trained personnel for 12 non-human civilians who were not our responsibility. Such actions cannot be tolerated in a modern military." Then Elena's defense attorney, a woman named Commander Walsh, stood to present her case, but before she could speak, Zaraka asked permission to address the court. "Your Honor," Zaraka said in her careful English, "I would like to tell you what happened from our perspective." The judge, a stern woman named Admiral Morrison, nodded. "The court recognizes Zaraka of the Kalari Confederation." Zaraka walked to the center of the courtroom. She was wearing formal Kalari robes, and her scaled skin caught the light as she moved. Everyone in the room was silent. "3 months ago, my people abandoned us," she began. "The Kalari Confederation decided that 12 lives were not worth the cost of rescue. The Vorthak Empire made the same choice. The Altarian Republic said we were too far away. Every government in our part of the galaxy wrote us off as dead." Paused and looked directly at Elena. "But Captain Rodriguez did not abandon us. She traveled farther than any human ship had ever traveled. She disobeyed her government's orders. She risked her career and her crew. Not because we were valuable to humanity, not because it would bring profit or advantage. She came because we needed help, and help was the right thing to give." Zaraka turned to address the judge and jury. "In my 70 years of life, I have seen governments make many decisions based on logic and profit. But I had never seen someone make a decision based purely on compassion. Captain Rodriguez showed me that there are still people in the galaxy who believe that some things matter more than money or politics or safety." She looked around the courtroom. "The research data we were carrying has now been shared with every spacefaring species. It has already prevented 6 energy storms that would have destroyed ships and killed thousands of people. But that is not the most important thing Captain Rodriguez saved." "What do you believe was the most important thing?" asked the judge. "Hope," Zaraka replied. "Hope that the galaxy contains people who will risk everything for strangers. Hope that compassion has not died among the stars." One by one, the other survivors testified. Pip talked about watching human engineers work day and night to repair their life support systems. The Nexari spoke in color patterns that were translated into words of gratitude. The Altarians described how Dr. Chen had learned their physiology in hours to treat their injuries. But the most powerful testimony came from an unexpected source. Marcus, the human cultural observer, who had been on the research mission, stood to address the court. "I joined that mission to study alien cultures," Marcus said. "I thought I understood what it meant to be human. But watching the crew of the Defiant, I learned something new about my own species. He looked at Elena with deep respect. Captain, Rodriguez and her crew did not save us because we were valuable or important. They saved us because we were in trouble, and they had the power to help. That is what makes humans special in this galaxy. Not our technology or our weapons or our politics. Our willingness to help others, even when it costs us everything. The testimony phase lasted 3 days. Representatives from a dozen alien governments spoke on Elena's behalf. The Vorthak Empire sent an admiral to testify about the value of the rescued research. The Nexari Collective offered to pay for the fuel costs of the rescue mission, but the most surprising testimony came from Elena's own crew. Tank Morrison took the stand and looked directly at the judge. Admiral, I have served in the military for 20 years. I have followed orders that I disagreed with and kept quiet about decisions I thought were wrong. But when Captain Rodriguez asked if we should rescue those people, every single member of this crew volunteered. Not because we were ordered to, because it was right. He paused and straightened his shoulders. If following orders means leaving people to die when we have the power to save them, then maybe the orders are wrong. Dr. Sarah Chen testified about the medical advances that came from treating multiple alien species. The chief engineer explained how the drive modifications made during the rescue had led to improvements in human faster-than-light technology. But the most important testimony came from the crew members themselves, who spoke about pride in serving, under a captain who would risk everything for people in need. On the final day of the trial, Elena was allowed to speak in her own defense. I stand by my actions, she said simply. I swore an oath to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I did not limit that oath to humans only. The day we stop helping people in need because it is inconvenient or expensive or dangerous is the day we lose what makes us worth saving: ourselves. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was silent. Has the jury reached a verdict? Asked Admiral Morrison. We have, Your Honor, replied the jury foreman. On the charge of disobeying direct orders, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of risking a capital ship, guilty. On the charge of endangering crew members, guilty. On the charge of causing a diplomatic incident, guilty. Elena closed her eyes. Her career was over. But the foreman was not finished. However, we recommend that all charges be dismissed due to extraordinary circumstances. Captain Rodriguez's actions, while technically violations of military law, represent the highest ideals of human service and sacrifice. We believe she should be commended, not punished. The courtroom erupted in cheers. Aliens and humans alike celebrated the verdict. Admiral Morrison banged her gavel for order. Captain Rodriguez, the judge said, this court accepts the jury's recommendation. All charges are dismissed. Furthermore, you are hereby promoted to Admiral and given command of the new Interspecies Rescue Service. Elena stared in shock. The Interspecies Rescue Service? A new branch of the military dedicated to emergency rescue operations regardless of species or location. Your actions have convinced the government that such an organization is necessary. 6 months later, Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the UES Compassion. It was twice the size of the Defiant, built specifically for long-range rescue operations. Her crew included humans, Kalari, Vorthak, Nexari, and Altarians working together. Zaraka served as her cultural liaison, helping coordinate with alien governments. Tank Morrison was her chief of operations. Dr. Chen headed the medical division, which now included specialists in dozens of alien physiologies. Admiral, called the communications officer. We are receiving a distress call from the Rigel system. A mining station has lost power and life support. Elena looked at the star chart. The Rigel system was 40 light years away. It would take 2 weeks to get there, pushing the engines hard. The miners might not have that long. Time to life support failure, she asked. 10 days, Admiral. It would be close. Very close. But that was what the Interspecies Rescue Service was for. All hands, this is Admiral Rodriguez. We have received a distress call from beings in need of help. It does not matter what species they are or which government they serve. It does not matter how far we have to travel or how dangerous it might be. We are going to help them because that is what we do. She turned to her navigation officer, a young Kalari who had requested transfer to the Human Rescue Service. Plot a course for Rigel. Maximum speed. Course plotted, Admiral. Engage. The UES Compassion jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing, toward people in danger. Across the galaxy, other rescue ships were doing the same thing. The idea had spread. Species that had once calculated the cost of every rescue operation now competed to see who could respond fastest to distress calls. In the captain's quarters that night, Elena looked at a letter from her grandmother's old ship. The crew had voted to give her their highest honor,